So today we are here with the wonderful Dean Hewitson of Hewitson Vineyards in the Barossa Valley of Australia. So thank you for being here today.
Absolute pleasure, Wanda. Thank you.
So you have such a beautiful portfolio of wines. It was hard to narrow it down to two to present today.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about your winery is it's truly a family business, and that reflects even in the names of the wines. So why don't you start us off with the Lulu and tell us a little bit about it?
Well, since you put me under so much pressure, and I was only able to select two, obviously my wife, who I first met about 25 years ago, actually. I couldn't go past selecting Lulu. So a Sauvignon Blanc from a single vineyard from the Adelaide Hills. The Adelaide Hills is a very cool climate region. It's high altitude, very lush green fields, and really cool foggy mornings that the fog burns off in the afternoon to ripen these grapes. And we don't add any sugar or acid at all during the winemaking process, so the wine is a pure natural expression of this single site vineyard. It's green flavours, some tropical notes, and a little bit of melon and pear and maybe even some peach, and a beautiful harmony, a complete wine. It's delicious.
And I think it really reflects your motto of New World wines with an Old World purity. So do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate in my early days. I was encouraged by people to go to Europe and work and visit vineyards. And in fact, I set off my first sojourn to Europe. I had a list of names and addresses. This was pre-mobile phones, by the way. It was quite difficult. I didn't really speak French that much, but I had the most wonderful experience visiting all of these people and learning from their experiences about their wines and their vineyards, and that's stuff that I think you just can't. You certainly can't learn from staying at home. And I like to think that my wines that I make now have a little bit of that expression in them. The things that I took from them and learned from them, as well as learning in Australia. I also was fortunate enough, I did a Masters in California at UC Davis, and again, spending 2 years on the up and down the west coast of the United States, going to Washington, Oregon vineyards, and obviously the whole of California. And then I think the style of our wines takes a little bit from each of those regions, which is great.
Absolutely. So next, I think we also see that European aesthetic in the Miss Harry, which is a blend. So tell us about Miss Harry, and who was that named after?
Well, Miss Harry, I've got 3 children, and Miss Harry is my only daughter, and obviously a proud father, their favourite, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And Ned and Henry know it anyway. She's my little favourite. And she was born in 1999, and now turning 17, or just turned 17. And we first made this wine in 2000, and we were looking for a name to put on the front. And my wife, Lou, said, well, why don't we call it Miss Harry? And what a fabulous idea that was, because this is a wine with great expression, and it's a wine that we enjoyed now, and it's full of life. It's full of youthful life. Beautiful fruit flavours, but also lovely complexity with its dried herb characters and spice and things like that. So again, a wine that is proudly South Australian, proudly from the Barossa Valley, but can sit alongside these European wines from the Southern Rhone and be right at home.
And tell us about the grapes in the blend, because 3 of them are very much identified, I believe, with the Southern Rhone. Yeah,
we make this wine from Grenache, and also blend in Shiraz and Mourvedre, and a little bit of Cinsault and Carignan. And these latter 2 varieties are grown in the south of France, and are often used in the blends. And we have a few percent each of these varieties in this wine, and it gives it that real sense of that Côte de Rhône style, that Châteauneuf-du-Pape Côte de Rhône style, which is great, which is terrific. Very old vines too. Some of these vines date back to the 1800s. So the average age of the vines in Miss Harry is approximately 70 years old, which is the age of when the French start pulling theirs out. So that gives you an idea of the history and what we have in the Barossa Valley.
Well, I think I lied to myself, because I think we do have to talk about the Shiraz. So we're going to pause for a moment and then we're going to bring in a Shiraz.
Perfect.
For many American consumers, we think of Australian red wine and we think Shiraz. We think of, often it hasn't been a positive thought in recent years. But I think that's changing thanks to winemakers like yourself. So tell us about Shiraz. What went wrong and what's going right now?
Yeah. Well, we've never changed our style over the time. We've always focused on balance and fruit freshness, vibrancy, as well as I guess depth of fruit, and not relying on tannin and alcohol and sweetness. And I think what happened in Australia was we were hijacked by this thing. We felt that the American consumer wanted the sweetness and the tannin and the alcohol, and those wines became the famous wines and the high pointed wines. Yet they weren't natural. These weren't wines that we drank at home. In fact, these wines were often concocted on the bench, and actually a label was just put on them expressly for the American market. We couldn't buy these wines at home at all. And I think one day, without a doubt, the consumer woke up one morning and said, actually, you know what, these wines are completely over the top. They're not vinous, they don't represent the true wines of the country, and we're not taking them anymore. And I'm glad that happened, and it should have happened, and it had to happen. And so as a consequence, obviously the Australian wines fell out of favour, and we came back into the market just quietly by ourselves, and got behind the doors of the people and were talking to the gatekeepers direct, the sommeliers and the buyers, the people who would buy the wine and put them on by the glass. And they had always liked the style of Shiraz we made. It was unforced, vibrant, and had balance. And with this elegance, which is more of a European elegance. And so without changing what we did, we were accepted back into the States, which was just a fabulous thing. And so for the last few years, we've been working hard at re-establishing our market. And then the Henry Shiraz, which is this wine, it really does showcase all of those things: the balance, the elegance, and lovely fruit flavours. And so it is unmistakably a Barossa Shiraz, but done in a really nice way that's approachable and goes extremely well with food. Beautiful fruit and a lovely cool edge to it too. So it's great.
Wonderful. And what's really, I think, consistent through all of your wines, you can taste the quality and the vibrancy and the fruit ties everything together. And
Wanda, I did forget to mention, I was forced to call this wine Ned and Henry after Miss Harry's older brothers because I had to restore harmony in the house. Harriet was running around bragging that she had a wine named after her, and yet the boys didn't. And of course, older brothers being older brothers,
of course,
they started to trip her up in the passageway and things like that. And and I thought, well, hang on, I know a way around this. I'll bring in Ned and Henry's. But you have to share. Absolutely. But that's life. You have to share in life too. Well, very beautiful wines. Thank you and your family. Thanks, Wanda.